So this video is a long time coming, like a very long time coming, an embarrassingly long time coming. This is something I've kind of alluded to in a lot of videos, streams, especially streams. And thing is, it's always been a bit of a difficult subject for me to address, to be completely honest. But here it is. This is a video about a trans girl's experience living in Japan. Now granted, understand that this video will be a very different perspective than literally anyone born in Japan that's trans, obviously. Keep in mind this is a perspective of some Australian girl that lived in Japan for like half a year. It's not that ingrained as someone else might experience. So with that all said, let's cover everything that I regretfully have not mentioned till now. So here's the deal. For those not too much in the know, Japan's not the most accepting place to be trans, to be completely honest. Now granted, it's gotten a lot better. Like, they've made a lot of progress. However, it's very easy to assume it's very progressive due to the fact that they have media about LGBT characters a lot more commonly. I think that's less of the case now, but at least when I was first learning Japanese, I felt like Japanese media was the only way for me to get trans rep. So as a result, it was pretty easy for me to cling onto it like it was the very thing I was meant to do. So I've studied Japanese for more than 10 years. I got to about GLPT N2 for everyone that knows what that is. Except my writing. My writing was atrocious, but that's neither here nor there. Here nor there. My English is bad too, apparently. So there's a couple of experiences I've had in Japan. There's two main perspectives I want to cover. Pre-transition, being in there for a visit, and during my transition in a university exchange. Now, I think there's a really bad habit within the space of why I left Japan videos. I think they can be a bit melodramatic. So I will be talking about negatives in this video, but I want it to be clear that there's a reason I went there in the first place. There is things I like about it. And for me to act like I don't, that wouldn't be quite right. No, would it? So with that all said, let's start from the beginning. So you're gonna see a running theme. I have a thing called bad luck when it comes to Japan. So despite transitioning fairly young, but very subtly in the background, kind of secretly, I didn't experience much bullying in Australia. To be honest, none. I was really lucky. I'm very fortunate for that. But Japan, less so. We used to have exchange students every year, and the thing that kept coming up is well, I kept getting bullied. There's no other way to explain it. I had a case where some Japanese students found makeup remover in my bag, and they decided to pass it around and make me use Japanese to try to get it back. This is when I didn't know how to speak that much. So I had to run around trying to figure out how to get this makeup remover back while being laughed at relentlessly. This video is already such a downer. Don't worry, I'll make a really happy one next time to compensate. So yeah, makeup remover got passed around, stuff like that. Another time, exchange students gave me a lot of queer-phobic slurs. Now granted, some of these slurs were words they recently learnt and kind of didn't know that they really hurt people's feelings. Some of them apologized, some of them doubled down. It's not a black or white situation, but either way, it wasn't very good. I didn't like that very much. But don't worry, that's just exchange students coming here. Once I go to Japan, it'll be way better. So I thought. So I did a little school trip, which I am very fortunate to have had that opportunity. I won't pretend like it wasn't. If I find any pictures, I'll show them of the trip. It was actually pretty cool in a lot of ways, but we had a day where we went to a Japanese high school. And to be real with you, this unfortunately will be the most negative part of the entire video. It gets a little better later in the part of transitioned and going to Japan, but this is, I guess you gotta remember, this is like a boy moding mid-teenager, mid-2010s me. And well, from the perspective of all the Japanese students there, they saw a tall white cis man. And as you can imagine, that didn't feel good. I'm not gonna blame that on too many people. I mean, they didn't know, but what followed really solidified the fact I needed a transition. So you can view that as the silver lining of the situation. It helped me realize what I had to do. So when we got there, the first thing that happened, a bunch of Japanese schoolgirls ran up to me after we did our little introductions. You know, when we had to flex our amazing Japanese skills. And I remember one of them said the phrase, "Girlfriend to ka arimasu ka?" And at the time, I didn't know what that meant. So I turn around, and the guy behind me is like, "She's asking if you have a girlfriend." And then, well, my girlfriend at that time broke up with me the week before. So technically the answer was no, because I didn't have one. So yeah, that was the answer. No. Fair response. That the group of Japanese girls like squealed and ran off to their friends, and that felt awful. I can't explain it. That was dysphoria to a crazy degree. But, you know, march on, you know, an opportunity to experience school in another country. You gotta make the most of something like that. I mean, how many times do you get to do that? For many people, it's none, right? So I tried to make the most of it, try to ignore it. My main focus for that day was to get better at Japanese. That's why I was there, after all. So in the different classes we had, which was like, we had maths, woodwork for some reason, and those like the club activities, I think. Yeah. Oh, and then the sport. We did sport in the middle. I'll get to that. But throughout the day, I just kept being asked constantly, "Do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? Oh my god, you're so tall. Wow, do you have a girlfriend?" It was a little relentless. Eventually it got a little frustrating because I wasn't seeing one for me, like, because they're seeing a cis guy instead of a girl, but also it felt like they didn't care about me. It felt like they just wanted to shoot their shot at getting a white partner, which felt a bit icky. Not gonna lie. And like, I get it, we're all teenagers at that time, but like, chill out. You know. So as a result, I started not talking very much, but eventually I got asked out by, I think it was like 5 different girls that really head-on directly asked me, and just, oh, I didn't like the feeling. I didn't like it. I rejected politely. I had one instance where like we were washing our hands. One of them like let me borrow a little towel to like wash my hands, and you're like, "Oh, okay, cool, thank you." And then when I gave it back, she like scrunched it up and squealed and like held it up to her face. like a victory piece, and then ran off and squealed, and like, I'll be real, it just felt kind of weird. I don't think it's right to refer to a culture holistically as weird. So let me make it clear that that specific situation was weird. Not the culture I was in. I think they were just a little excited that there were foreigners around. Which surprised me because I was in the middle of Tokyo, but okay. Whatever, I'll take it. This led to sports, and we had to like gender segregate. And what that meant was I had to do it with the guys. And we did judo. And I did karate at the time, but I haven't done judo. So it was an experience, but I had to do it with guys. I didn't feel very good. And then like we had to like get changed like in the middle of the gymnasium. Like there wasn't a change room. Like I can't be the only one that thinks that's not normal, right? I don't know what context led to that happening. I feel like most schools in any country would have a change room, Japan included. I think this is just an isolated case. I don't think we can holistically assume something about somewhere just because of this. But here I am, getting changed. And all these guys are just standing around me menacingly, all around. And then in the corner of my eye, I just see a bunch of girls trying to like sneakily like get a look. And I gotta be real with you. That was a bit, as they would say, kimochi warui. That was really creepy. I didn't like it. So I felt dysphoric, uncomfortable, and a bunch of other bad things. But at least I got a chance to practice Japanese, is what I would say if anyone talked to me about anything except my girlfriend status. Which, by the way, experiencing that a week after a breakup, pretty rough as a 15-year-old. So, that school day ended and we had to go to 2 more schools for the next 2 days. I'll be real. That was me at my lowest. You know, every trans YouTuber has that like, oh, me at my lowest in my transition moment. Yeah, that was it. That was it for me. That was worst 3 days. It was just that for 3 days. Now, it's kind of like the memory is a little bit of a blur. So I don't know which instance happened on which day, but it was just weird that 3 different high schools, it just, I didn't like it. But if I remember correctly, all the guys that were there, they were actually cis men, they loved it. But I was slightly taller, so I got all the attention, and I just wanted to like redirect it to like a different person, you know? Like, no, not me, different person. And then somehow through pure coincidence, the following year when we had exchange students at our school, one of the girls came up to me like, I remember when you came to my school and I've thought about you ever since. Now we're reunited. And I'm just like, come on. So I rejected politely. Some things never escape you, I guess. So you'd think I would not want to go to Japan again after that. And I feel like if I said, that's it, I'm going to do something else, I feel like I'd have good reason to. However, what can't be denied is I did have a good holiday. I saw some really cool things, insightful things. I got to see the shrines of Kyoto. I got to experience museums. I got to go to like Universal Studios and Disneyland for the first time in my life, you know. I can't just act like it was a bad time. It kind of was. But as far as being trans in Japan goes, not a great first impression. Not gonna lie. But, you know, that's mostly due to the fact they didn't know I was trans, so I guess I was optimistic that if I went again, it'd be different. So, here's the deal. We're going to skip over a couple of holiday trips because nothing notable really happened, except cool memories. So I did a couple of vacations here and there. Very fortunate. I'm very happy I got those opportunities. Because I kind of funneled any money I did make into just Japan travel. It's kind of all I did back then. I didn't have other hobbies. So, the big one. That half year. So, I went to Kwansei Gakuin Daigaku, which is Kwansei Gakuin University. But I think the word Gakuin is probably like, it's kind of redundant to say Daigaku afterwards. So maybe that's wrong, but that's the university I went to. You can look at it on Google Maps if you'd like. I'm never going there again, so I can say that safely. So this was like, you know that awkward mid-stage of transition where like you're transitioned but people can't really tell the fact that you're transitioning because some cis people are a bit unaware. So as a result, we ended up in this small town called Nishinomiya, and I wore cutesy girls' clothes when I could. People were like fairly polite, but how do I explain it? The air was different this time. When I went before, because Japan's kind of known for like overwhelming kindness, and granted some of that's social obligation more than anything, but there are kind people there. Acting like there isn't would be kind of silly. But this time when I went, I felt a bit to the side. Like I felt like people didn't know how to talk to me or wanted to, which is strange because at that point I could speak Japanese. I just felt isolated. I don't know. And when I had my free time outside of classes, I tried to find local queer community that only exists at nightclubs at night, really, which I found a bit disheartening. And admittingly, maybe it was just I couldn't go to those kind of nightclubs because they were a bit scary. And most nightclubs don't let in foreigners. Well, a lot do. That's a generalization, but some don't. Depends where you are. But the entire LGBT community, as I know it, in Japan is kind of tucked away. Now, that's not me jabbing at that LGBT community. I understand socially why that is, because it's not exactly the most progressive place to be yourself in that sense. But it became apparent when I lived there that making other friends that were also trans was kind of out of the question. I tried looking on forums to find like other foreigners that were trans, but I had bad luck, I guess. Nothing really came of it. And like, I guess in that moment, it solidified to me that there wasn't really a future for me there. If that makes sense. My game plan was to be an English teacher in Japan, and I watched countless videos about what it's like to do that, and I guess when I weighed up what being in Japan was like, I didn't think it was worth it for me. Maybe for someone else it would be, but I don't think that's where I want to spend the rest of my life, I guess. Now, nothing horrific happened to me in Japan as a trans person, not really. But it just felt like the whole time I dedicated everything to living in Japan, I think it was escapism for my dysphoria. I dedicated everything to Japanese because I thought maybe if I moved to Japan, maybe all my gender problems would disappear. I could just be any other person. But while it is true, when you're there, you're kind of not discriminated. I don't think that's the right word, but I actually don't know what the right word is. You're just not. You'll never be one of them, per se. Even if you're in the community for a very long time, you will always be a visitor, in a sense. It's not a place where I felt like could ever be home. And in retrospect, it was foolish of me to think it could be different. I spent my entire teenage years studying Japanese for the goal purpose of living in Japan. So much so that when it came time to decide not to live there, I was unsure what I'd do next. Now this YouTube channel and the voice lessons, that's what I did next, but you can't really say to yourself that's what I'm going to do, because there's a lot of variables that give you this opportunity, I guess. So I understand it was a really big opportunity that I got to live in Japan pretty successfully. I probably could have, to be honest. There's things I can't change. A lot of things. And I think a lot of the bad things that happened wouldn't have happened if I was a cis girl. But I'm not. I'm a trans girl. And I guess I felt that living in Australia would be where I'd be happiest, I think. Now, don't get me wrong. I'd love to visit Japan again. Though, I used a lot of money that was saved up for me to do this Japan trip, so might be a while before I get to do that again. But what are you gonna do? Now, I didn't go too in depth with the bad, negative stuff that happened because, well, it'd be a bit of a downer. But if you take anything away from this video, I want you to know that you can't generalize a country. But if you have negative experiences somewhere and you want to go somewhere else as a result, that's fine. If you dedicated yourself to a career path that you feel like you can't escape from because it's what you're expected to do, don't feel like you have to keep going. Don't march on just because people tell you to. That's not right. Sure, I dedicated, like an entire third? No, less than a third. Less than a third of my life just studying Japanese relentlessly. And I guess it's that acceptance that even if I don't get the career path I expected, what I did was not a waste of time. I learned a language. That's a beautiful skill. And I'd like to learn more languages, you know? So that passion came of it. And for that, I'm thankful. There's probably a lot of stuff I missed. And I understand a lot of the bad stuff that happened was due to when I was like pre-transition. However, I feel like Australia is a better home for me, but I still consider Japan a second home. And I'm excited to visit again. Because of that university experience, Osaka feels like a second home, in a way. I never mastered their dialect. All I really got was like, wakarahen, nandeganen, that kind of stuff. But hey, it's an experience of a lifetime. And it's important I take the good from a bad situation. I had some bad luck. From bullying to weird situations to I forgot to mention, I lost some work opportunities because I was trans. I forgot to mention that part. A couple of jobs I did try, they didn't want to hire a trans person, and legally they can just kind of say that. There's not that kind of protection to minorities in the same way as other places might. So I guess I didn't want to have to tackle that whenever I get a job. And I guess that's fair enough. So that's at least part of my story. I'm currently saving up to hopefully do one more trip to Japan. I want to do it as like reclaiming what I felt like I kind of lost in a way. The ultimate trip. When will that happen? Who knows? But I'll make videos about it if I do it. That's my plan. So hope you enjoyed this little video. And if you want more trans content, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and do all the YouTubey things. I upload every week. So, as always, stay hydrated and know that you're valid.